Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so now we're going to start talking about conversions between the metric and the imperial system. I'm going to give you a chart here that's for you to use, and it's got a bunch of information on it. It's got metric conversions, so 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, and that's something I think that you should know. You should memorize that one. 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, and that's what kilo means. Okay, that's what that K is. It's kilo, and it stands for 1,000. So 1 kilometer is 100,000 centimeters. Why anyone would want to know that, I have no idea. 1 meter is 100 centimeters. That's important. You need to know that. And it's probably good to know that 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters, but you probably know that already. You grab any ruler that you got, and you're going to be able to tell 1 centimeter has 10 little millimeter hash marks between it. That's what a millimeter is. Using the meter as the benchmark, we go up and down from the meter in powers of 10. That's what's so neat about the metric system. So a decameter means multiply by 10. A hectometer means multiply by 100. And again, we've already said this, a kilometer means multiply by 1,000. So that's how that works. We don't use the decameter and the hectometer an awful lot. Going the other way, if you take a meter and divide it by 10, you got a decimeter. If you take a meter and divide it by 100, then you got a centimeter. And if you take a meter and divide it by 1,000, then you got a millimeter. So this is division by 10, division by 100, and division by 1,000. And again, that's all using the meter as the middle starting point. So here's our imperial conversions. This is what we did last day. Please notice there's a mistake on this. 1 quart is 0.947 liters, so you need to make that correction, please. Everything else seems pretty good. The one I really think are really important for you to know is you better know that a foot is 12 inches. You better know a yard is 3 feet. Other than that, I think a gallon being 4 quarts is pretty important. I think knowing that a pound is 16 ounces is pretty important. This is a neat one. 2,000 pounds is a ton. It's not really what you would think. You'd think like 2,000 is weird to call a ton, but that's what they do. These are definitely very important. I need you to know that an inch is 2.54 centimeters. A foot is about 30 centimeters. A yard, what you need to know is that a yard is bigger than a meter. Okay, so a meter is 0.9. No, I'm sorry, a meter is larger than a yard. Let's see this, 1 yard is 0.9 meters, yeah. So a meter's bigger than a yard, and you need to know that a kilometer is bigger than a mile. Okay, now, you know what, I'm crazy today. A meter is bigger than a yard, and a mile is bigger than a kilometer. So 1 yard is just less than a meter, and 1 mile is just over a kilometer and a half. Oh my goodness, I'm hurting today. So 1 mile is just over a kilometer and a half. 1 yard is just under a meter. All right, so let's take a look at our lesson, see if I can't get through this. There are fixed relationships among the different units of length, volume, and weight. By the way, there's a reason why it was called the imperial system. It's because it used to depend on the king. They used to actually measure the king's foot, and that was the new unit of measure. A yard was how far he could step easily. But then they changed it and they made it more universal and more fixed. So we've got different conversions here that we'll come back to. How to use the chart. So if I got 1 foot, so looking up here, I got 1 foot goes to meters. So if I'm going from foot to meters, then I multiply. If I'm going from meters to foot, then I divide. Over here, if I'm looking at inch squared to centimeter squared, then if I'm starting with the inches, I multiply by 6.25. And if I'm starting with the 6.25, I divide. So really, if I start on this side and go to this side, I multiply. And if I'm starting on this side and going to this side, I'm dividing. That's a short way to look at it, and I'm going to show you another way to take a look at it. So I got 25 inches to centimeters. So let's look up here. I've got 25 inches. There we are, inches to centimeters. So I've got 25 inches to centimeters. So 1 inch is to 25.4. Oh, that's millimeters. Millimeters. I'm reading up here. And, oh, you can't see what I'm writing, so it really doesn't matter what I'm writing. Ha ha, so I get to start again. Okay, so let me come out a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So 25 inches to centimeters. So you've got 25 inches and you want to know how many centimeters that's worth. Well, we know that 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. That means if I break these into fractions, I got to get 25 over x equals 1 over 2.54. The fact that these fractions are set up so my unknowns on the bottom is lousy, so I'm going to flip both of them. And I'm going to cross multiply. And that's going to give me an answer of, and I can also already hear people in my studio audience saying, but sir, I can think of an easier way to do this, and they're definitely right. We've got 25 inches. Each inch is worth 2.5 centimeters. So if we just took the 25 and multiplied by 2.54, we would have ended up with the exact same answer. And that's perfectly right. However, this is setting up the ratios, and sometimes you need to because, hey, even math teachers get confused. So let's look over here. We've got liters to gallons. So looking up here, I've got 1 gallon is to 3.75 liters. So 1 gallon is to 3.785 liters. Just under 4 liters there. So if I've got just under 4 liters and 4 liters goes to 1 gallon, then what I'm going to be doing is taking this 55 and dividing by that. And certainly that's the fast way to do this. So it's going to be 55 divided by 3.785. And that will give me that'll give me 14.5 gallons. And it wouldn't hurt just to think about this for a minute. So I start off with liters. Liters are smaller than gallons, so I should end up with less than 55. And I do, so that works for us. The other thing to do is to think about this is I could set up my ratio. So I've got 1 is to 3.785. So the question is I've got 55 is to x. So setting them up as fractions. So 1 over that is 55 over that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, hold on, 1 gallon is to that. I've got this goofed up. If you're going to have gallons on one side, you got to keep gallons on that side. So 1 gallon is to that. So x gallons is to 55. So the liters have to be together. The gallons have to be together. That was garbage. So 1 over 3.785 is x over 55. Cross multiply, it's 55 divided by 3.785, and it gives you the same answer that we had of 14.5. Okay, let's flip over. I'm looking for the other side. I'm running out of sheets. Here we go. Meters to feet. All right, so I've got 10 meters to feet. Let's think about that for a minute. Come back here. Length. Feet. 1 foot is 0.3048 meters. So 1 foot is 0.3. So that means I've got 10 meters. I want to know how many feet I have. I'm actually going to use the ratio here just to show it one more time. So 1 foot is to 0.3048 meters. Is that right? 1 foot, yep. So then, how many feet would I have if I have 10 meters? Let's set up the fractions. 1 over 0.30, you can't see what I'm doing, 48 equals x over 10. Bring the 10 over, cross multiply, and we come up with 32.8 approximately. And let's think about that for a minute. I got 10 meters, it's going to feet. There is more feet than meters, so there's several feet in 1 meter, meaning I should have a larger number here than I do there, and I do. Pounds to kilograms. Well, I got 120 pounds, and I'm going to look over here. 1 pound is 0.454 kilograms. So 1 pound is to 0.454 kilograms, which means 120 pounds is to x kilograms. Set up the fractions. 1 over 0.454 equals 120 over x. My unknown's in the bottom. I really don't like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip both sides. I'm going to cross multiply. And we're going to have 120 times 0.454, 54.48 kilograms. Now let's think about that for a minute. We know that their kilogram is larger than a pound, so that means if I have 120 pounds converting into something larger, I should have a smaller number of them, and I do. Temperature conversions, this is really a bit of a memorization. So in the States, they use Fahrenheit, and in Canada, we use Celsius. So the fall temperature in Hamilton is 19 degrees Celsius. So we want to know what that's going to be in Fahrenheit. So in terms of Fahrenheit, it's going to be 19 degrees times 1.8 plus 32. Now, we can estimate that. We can ballpark this. We can take that to 2, and it's going to give us an answer, but it's not really going to be an accurate one. If we take that to 2, it's going to be 19 times 2 plus 32, and we're getting an answer of 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, that's too high, okay? But it's in the ballpark of where we're going to be. If we take 19 and actually multiply it by 1.8, you're going to end up with 34.2. If we add that to the 32, we end up with 66.2 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, the 70 was too high, but it put us in the right ballpark. There's a big difference between 70 degrees Fahrenheit, though, and 66. But again, it's in the right ballpark. So if we take a look at this one, there's a bit of a typo here. We need to put a bracket there so that we do the order of operations. So in Orlando, Florida, we're going to have 92 degrees Fahrenheit. So we want to change that to Celsius. So it's going to be, I guess that goes on the other side. It's going to be 92 minus 32 divided by 1.8. Now again, we can estimate this by making that a 2. So this would be 60 divided by 2 is about 30. So it's about 30 degrees Celsius. It really isn't. It's going to be 60 divided by 1.8, which is 33.3 degrees Celsius. But again, we were in the right ballpark. So a lot of people memorize the formula. Instead of 1.8, it's being 2 so that they can do it in their head. All right, let's flip over. Example 3, measurement lengths. So we're looking at blueprints for a new amusement park ride. We're prepared using imperial units. The axles to be manufactured are going to be manufactured in a metric facility. So we've got 1 3/4 inch. That's what that symbol means, that double tick up there. So 1 3/4 inch. That's the diameter of the axle. And an axle is going to be a bar that's going to be round, and that's going to be your axle. And so it's got a diameter here of 1 3/4 inch. That's the same as 1.75 inches. And what I did was I converted the fraction into a decimal. So what is the diameter of this axle in millimeters is the question. Well, each inch is going to be, let's see here, each inch is 25.4 millimeters. So if you want, we can just take the number of inches and multiply by 25.4 millimeters, and we'll get the final answer of 44.45 millimeters. Now the other thing you could have done was changed it to centimeters, then to millimeters, but a good friend of mine, Dante, has informed me that this is a quicker way. We have the conversion, so we might as well use it. Example 4, gas price. The average price of gas in San Francisco is $4.39 per gallon. What's the price per liter? Well, the first thing you need to know is that 1 gallon is bigger than a liter. So 1 gallon is approximately equal to 3.785 liters. So that means that this price of $4.39 is divided amongst 3.785 liters. So it's going to be $1.16 per liter. And that's the conversion for that. All right, guys. So you've got homework. It's from your textbook, 16 to 18. Numbers 1, A, B, C, D, F, G, no G, H, I, J, 2 to 5, and 9. Get going on that, and we'll be back in a moment.